My name is Mike Shishka. I'm the owner and creative director of Reaction Marketing. We're a creative services agency that's been around for about 5 years in Red Deer, and we help companies to take their brands to new heights. I had the very fortunate opportunity to speak and answer some questions at the first Red Deer social media breakfast, and I find it really interesting that here we are at the end of 2012 and it seems like we're still having the conversation about how to use and integrate social media into your marketing mix. And it seems to me that anytime an event like this happens, the subject of the conversation and how this builds relationships with your customers seems to still be quite sort of trailblazing ideas for a lot of people, when in reality that's the foundation of what social media is. And people really need to open their eyes that social media isn't advertising, it's marketing, and there's a really clear difference. And I think that's something that's, even at the end of 2012, is still being really established. One of the things that I find really interesting about where we're going as a society with all of this influence of social platforms playing such a huge role in the way people communicate today is that businesses now more than ever are going to start to realize the power of building true relationship, and that there are real financial or growth types of gains to be made from genuinely being liked and involved in the communities that you're a part of, whether that's the community geographically, your customer base, or people that fall into a certain line of interest. And I think that's what going into, we're seeing it now already, but going into 2013 and beyond, it's going to be the small businesses who are dipping their toe in the water right now that are really going to start to understand this idea that it takes building real relationships to build a business. And to be honest, that's something it's always been that way. You could go back 100 years and business was built on relationships. It's just using the technology to do what we've always done over a cup of coffee or having lunch is now being taken into a digital space. So we're having to rewrite the rule book of how you do this in a way that makes sense and that follows the cultural rules that each of these social networks has set up as what's an acceptable way to communicate. So as business and as a general umbrella starts to really adopt this idea that relationships can be built online, that doesn't really translate until that relationship becomes real. So while you may have started the conversation through Twitter or on Facebook, at some point you need to materialize that into a face-to-face meeting. And I think that bridge is going to be even farther brought with technology as we see the mobile integration into the way that communication happens. So right now everything is very tied to being on the web. As we go into the next few years, we're going to see all of the smartphones that everybody's using to interact with these websites, Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, and you're really just accessing the website through your mobile phone. And we're going to see that the interaction level between the on and offline world through all these mobile phones become even more immersive. And then the challenge becomes taking that to now a face-to-face conversation, which is going to result in the solidification of that relationship. Speaking from personal experience, my business has benefited greatly from being on social platforms like Facebook and Twitter specifically. It's really facilitated the conversation between myself and my customers and potential customers, and it's allowed me to go on and express an unfiltered opinion about something and really just get some thoughts out there or become part of a conversation that I feel I have something to contribute to. And through that process, it's established me as somewhat of an expert in my field, or at the very least, it's put me on people's radar as someone who's comfortable going out and talking about these things and has a legitimate opinion. Now, whether you agree with it or not becomes the second part of the equation. But the fact that you're out there talking about it and it resonates with people in a way that, through technology, my opinion can be heard by hundreds or thousands of people, as opposed to in a direct coffee shop type scenario where it's one-on-one. So the scalability of your opinion or the scalability of your interaction is really where the power of social media lies, and platforms like Twitter are the perfect vehicle to demonstrate how that's possible. So while we could all, talk a lot about the business and the corporate uses of social media, there becomes the personal side, which is the fact that, Mike, the owner of Reaction Marketing, is a real person and watches movies and goes to events and enjoys himself outside of a business setting. But because we live in a world where everything is so public and everything is shared, and you can have your picture taken and it show up without you even knowing and spread across the internet, there's a bigger onus more than ever to represent your personal brand at all times. And I think that this transcends sort of the level of importance you have within your community. I mean, you can literally be a 16-year-old drive-through clerk at McDonald's right up to being the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. You have a responsibility to yourself to represent your personal brand or your reputation in a way that you feel is of accurate representation of who you are. And whether it's a post on Facebook or a review on Rotten Tomatoes, that is tied to your name, and it's something that represents you. You're leaving your mark. And I think now more than ever, people need to be very conscious of the way that they act. And there's a lot of life coaches and business coaches that talk about the separation of work-life balance and where those lines draw of when you're on and when you're off. And my belief is that there is no separation. You are a representative of your company or your business or your employer, no matter where you go. If somebody knows you work at a particular business and you go out and make a fool of yourself in a public setting, nothing to do with the internet, that's going to become a representation of your employer. And I think with how viral things go now and how fast information can spread, it's everybody's responsibility to really protect their personal brand. So everybody wants to know where things are going. It's obvious where things are, but it's the mystery and the value is always in knowing what's coming next. And I'm not the first person to say that things are going mobile, and I think that there isn't a lot of knowledge about what that means. And I think we've seen right now the very early stages of it in its QR codes. Your ability to scan a physical, whether it's a bus bench ad or a newspaper ad, that you can scan that with your phone and then bring something into the digital space. That's the very, very early tip of the iceberg sort of example of bridging this gap. And to be honest, I don't know where that ends or what's in store. And I think the people that figure that out are going to be the ones that really win going into the years to come. The other thing that I think is really going to be an important sort of shift of thought that's going to happen over the next few years is traditional business models. If you think about the three areas they focus on, it's new customers first, existing customers second, and then their staff and their team third. And I think that 1, 2, 3 is going to switch, and we're going to see that the focus is on your team first, and then on your existing customers, and new customers last. And companies that really can embrace that from today are going to be hugely successful in the future. All right, so Roger and I just finished our video talking about the social media breakfast and some of where things are going there, and we started just chatting over the table here, and we thought we'd throw the camera back on, and because we were talking about something that I think is really, really important, and that's that when you're a business owner, whatever your business is not what you're in the business of. If you're a coffee shop, you're not in the business of serving coffee. You're in the business of marketing the coffee that you serve. And I think that's when you get your head around that as a business owner, amazing things start to happen. And it's this total, shift of thinking that, I'm not in the business of what my business is, but you're not. Every single business is in the business of marketing a product or service. And when you start to think that way, you start to open the doors to all these types of possibilities. And we were talking about a good mutual friend of ours in a business in town, Kevin from Cool Beans Bus. And Kevin is even inadvertently been great at adding this personality to his business, and I believe that he's trying to do that, and it's a conscious effort. And you can take that so far into allowing people into your world. And this is where a little bit of the marketing magic comes in, is you can make it seem organic, and it can be organic, but people just want to know what's up. They want to know what's going on in your world, and big brands are trying to appear small. This is the humanization of brands, or the personal side of things. And as a small business, you don't have to try to do that. All you have to do is be genuine and be who you are. Post a video about this new thing that you liked and it's really awesome. It doesn't even have anything to do with your business, but you're getting people into your world, and that's the important part. So just kind of a random thought, but wanted you guys to have it.